Why are there people making such a big deal? And then you've got evil old white men on the TV telling you you're not allowed to get your tooth pulled. If it's the case that the unborn are nothing more than blobs of tissue, and that abortion is no different than, say, having a tooth pulled, then we are infringing upon a serious right, upon a medical issue. We're telling them you can't have this done, says us. We don't necessarily understand it, but we're telling you you can't do that. And I think that's something we should seriously consider. I don't think that's fair for us to say that. However, if it's the case that the unborn are human beings, that the unborn have moral value and dignity and worth, the same as you and I, then what's going on in our country is no less than a Holocaust. And I use that word knowing its implications. It's important that we know that if the pro-choice side is correct, then what we're doing to them is truly unfair, and we should back off because we're wrong and we're doing something offensive, not maybe the end of the world, but we are in the wrong and we need to apologize. However, if it is the case that the pro-life side is correct, then that means that in this country alone, in America, in one day, reported, there are 3,500 innocent children being violently killed. Not terminated, not removed, violently killed. Just in this country, in one day. You guys woke up, you had your breakfast, you came out here on a cloudy, dreary day to listen to a dreary topic. You'll go home, you'll have lunch, maybe you'll hang out for a little bit, get some work done. You'll have dinner, you'll go to bed, and in that time, 3,500 children will be killed. Every day, just this country, reported. So I think we need to know that both the stakes are high on both sides. I'd say a little bit higher on one. But I say all that to say we shouldn't take this lightly. This isn't something that we can just say, well, I'm against abortion personally, but I don't want to impose my morality on anybody else. That's an interesting statement. We all love imposing our morality when it comes to murder. We love it. I love that the government tells people they're not allowed to murder. It's fantastic. I love it that the government tells people you're not allowed to rape, that you're not allowed to steal. Those are all moral issues. And I love it that people are imposing their morality on those topics. So if it's the case that the unborn are human beings, and it is the taking of innocent life, then we should be just as happy and enthusiastic that those values are being imposed on people. So essentially what I want to do is fill you guys in on two common roadblocks that you're going to come up against when you're discussing the abortion issue. Two things that are going to stand in your way. Two things that in general stand in the way of progress. And there is progress being made. I don't want to leave you guys on a completely downer note. There is a lot of progress being made, not enough, but there is some. So first, the most obvious, pro-choice activism. I'm just going to briefly go through and share with you guys just a couple of the arguments that you might come across. There's a lot of them, and there's certainly a lot more than two roadblocks, we'll say, that come up against it, but these would probably be the most common, and these are, I would say, the three most common arguments that you're going to come up against, and I just want to make sure you guys are equipped. The first one is, the unborn don't look human. The unborn aren't human. And yes, people will look at a picture of the unborn and say, well, they don't look the same. They don't look like us. They don't look like a human, which is very true. For those of you who have seen newborns, they don't look human either, if you ask me. But should we place value on something because it doesn't look the same as us? I think already your minds are probably going to some cases where that's occurred in the past, where, well, that doesn't look like us, therefore it's less valuable. But just so we can go through and get a little bit of scholarly advice on this issue, I want to share with you a couple of statements from the medical community. We're going to go through, do a little time travel here. Let's go back to 1859, way back. In an 1859 report on criminal abortion, the American Medical Association, not just a random group of militia saying this is this, American Medical Association understood that, quote, the independent and actual existence of the child before birth as a living being, unquote, was scientific truth. So back in 1859, doctors knew the unborn are human. Let's go a little bit farther in the realm of embryology. We're going to go up to 1968. Human Embryology textbook. Quote, it is the penetration of the ovum by the spermatozoon and the resulting mingling of the nuclear material, are you awake yet? Nuclear material that each brings to the union that constitutes the culmination of the process of fertilization and marks the initiation of the life of a new individual, distinct, new, and living. Let's go to 1975, textbook, Pathology of the Fetus and the Infant. Every time, quote, every time a sperm cell and ovum unite, a new being is created, which is alive and will continue to live unless death is brought about by some specific condition. An argument is building, I feel like. Let's go a little bit farther, 1981. This is for a subcommittee presented to Congress. Dr. Watson A. Bose of the University of Colorado Medical School speaks clearly when he states, quote, the beginning of a single human life is from a biological point of view a simple and straightforward matter, the beginning of conception. All right, we have a medical doctor saying the beginning of a single human life is the moment of conception. This is not a religious claim. Most of the people you're going to talk to, probably that are on the pro-choice side, well, unfortunately, a lot of them will be religious, but a lot of them won't be also. It's important that you know this isn't a religious argument. There are religious implications, obviously, and we're going to get into those later, but it's important that you know that this isn't just the Bible says it, therefore. Science is heavy on this. In that same report, in that same meeting, in 1981, the U.S. Senate reports, physicians, biologists, and other scientists agree that conception marks the beginning of life of a human being, a being that is alive and is a member of the human species. There is overwhelming agreement on this point in countless medical, biological, and scientific writings. Our government has stated it. And yet, here we are. So, I think it's safe to say the authorities, the people who spend their life studying this, have agreed the unborn are human beings from the moment of conception. That's not up for debate. So what's next? Okay, all right, they are human. But they're not persons. They don't have the same thing that we do that allows them to have value or worth or the right to life. This is probably the most common, well, we'll go with second most common argument I hear. It's an arbitrary distinction. They're human, but they're not persons. Says who? Who made up that distinction? You're not going to find out. Nobody, there's no medical textbook that's going to tell you, well, at this point they're human, but then they're persons and they get the right that it's an arbitrary distinction. There's an organization that I think will put a finer point on this, and they're most represented through their website. I want to recommend them to you. Abort73.com. It's a great resource. They have a lot of stuff up there. They put out a pretty powerful argument. That's a video I'm going to show you. And it helps you get your mind around the issue of personhood. Who decides what a person is? Can we really just say, well, they're humans, but they're not persons, so we decide they don't get to live? So I'm going to show you a video real quick. It goes by very fast, but I think you guys can keep up with it. I thought it'd be good to show you a video because I think the visual element helps to clear our minds about the topic. But I think it makes a good point. Of course, the people in power, the born people, are going to vote, should we be allowed to live? All born people? Yes? Okay. How about the unborn people? Should you be allowed to live? Nothing? Okay. Guess not. I think that personhood is something you'll hear argued arbitrarily by certain ethics professors and things, but ultimately it's not something that is a actual qualification or classification of a person. It's something that we have decided to impose on the unborn. And for our convenience, because abortion is convenient, it does remove a certain responsibility from us. It's more convenient to get rid of them. We don't see them, they don't look like us. Okay, maybe they are like us, but not enough. The third most common argument you're going to hear, and it's one that I'm going to tell you right now, no matter how well spoken you are, no matter how good your arguments are, how loving you are, you're probably going to lose this argument. In the Court of Public Appeals, you will lose this argument. But it's something we need to listen to and understand. The case of rape. A lot of people say I'm against abortion, except in cases of, well, they'll say rape, incest, and a mother's health. I'm not going to get into the other two. I think this one, in the case of rape, is the bigger argument. But I'm going to hang on afterwards if you guys have any questions or want to bring those up and have a discussion about it. I couldn't be more happy to stay here and talk to any of you about it. When it comes to the case of rape, which is a terrible, awful thing, and nobody is foolish enough to think it's anything otherwise. And if you're getting into an argument with someone, don't allow them to put you in the position of being someone who thinks that rape is okay, because a lot of times it's faced that way, that somehow because we don't think rape is a terrible thing that we think a woman should go through her pregnancy regardless of it. Everyone acknowledges that rape is awful. It's dehumanizing, it's terrible. Let's put things into context when we're talking about abortion. In the case of rape, women who have abortions because of that accounts for generously 1%. I'm being generous when I say 1% of it. By the way, since I'm bringing up statistics, I do want to let you guys know that everything that I'm saying here that involves statistics or things like that all come from specifically pro-choice places. I'm not getting my information from www.ihateabortion.com. These are all from mostly either the Center for Disease Control or the Guttmacher Institute, which is where a lot of Planned Parenthood gets their statistics from and their research. About 1% of abortions are the product of rape. The number one reason people will say that's 1%. The number one reason why people will have an abortion, 74% say having a baby would dramatically change my life. Everybody here that's had a baby, does a baby dramatically change your life?
Amen.
Okay. I'm glad we can agree on that. Obviously, a baby does change our lives. 3/4 of the people who gave that for socioeconomic reasons, for the breakdown of that 74%, 3/4 of them would say, what I mean by having a baby would dramatically change my life is career-oriented. 3/4 of the people of that 74% would say, well, I have a career ahead of me. I need to move forward in my job, and having a child is going to get in the way of that. Remember that. It's going to come up later. But what an interesting thing that somehow we've come to a place where I need to get ahead in my job, so I'm going to kill the natural byproduct of sex. It's a way to remove responsibility. I don't want to shatter anybody's way of thinking, but the natural outcome of sex is babies. That's your health lesson for this morning. That's what happens. And so to be shocked that when you have sex, a baby comes and, oh, this is going to get in the way, even though I tried to prevent it, I tried to stop it. I took all the pills I could, I did everything I could to stop this baby from happening, but it happened. This is the natural outcome of what happens. We've got to get rid of it because I've got a job to get to. I need to make more money. I need to have a better career. I need social status. Some of the other reasons are I can't afford this baby. It's interesting. Let's look at rape, and let's think about it this way. After all the things we've established about the unborn. So a woman goes through this tragedy, and she is raped. But she decides she's going to have the baby, which does happen. She decides she's going to have this baby. She has a little boy. And despite the constant memories of that horrible event, this child brings so much joy to her, as children do. despite all of the terrible memories she has and the suffering that she's going to go through, pregnancy is tough physically, emotionally, and then to have that trauma added onto it, there's a lot of pain.